What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, in Matthew Spinauer and Theo Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today, as we are, of course, going to recap this week's slate of NFL games. And for those games that we don't hit, make sure you tune in to our AMP Live. It'll be happening Wednesday this week, and we're going to recap all the games that we missed there, as well as do our Stay Hot locks and other things. And of course, we'll also be doing YouTube Live to recap things as well, the Monday night and Sunday night games. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm excited about my South Carolina Gamecocks defeating Tennessee on Saturday.
One Carolina team you can be excited about, at least.
It's one Carolina team I can be excited about. I'm stunned about how good Rattler played, dude. He was a different animal. He has been so bad all year, and he just turned it on last game. So shout out to him.
It was crazy. I went to take a shower, just like a hot, long shower, and decompress. And I come out and I look at my TV. I'm like, 3 touchdowns in one quarter. What happened?
There's nothing Mickey Mouse about those touchdowns. He was airing it out. He's like a random number generator quarterback. It's like roll a 6 and you're good. Roll a 1. Like there's nothing about him that's the same week to week. It's just like disaster class, master class, somewhere in between. It's just a complete spin the wheel and let's see what we get. It's pretty funny. But yeah, that I watched that game and you couldn't help but be impressed by the guy. I mean, man. And then Hendon Hooker tore his ACL, which is obviously terrible. And Tennessee's,
I was going to talk so much trash on Twitter.
And then you just can't.
Like it.
But it's okay.
But it's been a great couple days for sports. I woke up this morning. I watched the World Cup game, the opener, Qatar versus Ecuador. Qatar played probably the worst soccer game I've ever seen anyone play in my life. That was hilariously bad. And then it ended and football got going. I could get used to this. So I know a lot of our listeners don't care about soccer. I know a lot of my co-hosts don't. It's a bad take.
I watched.
You watched?
You watched?
Yeah, I watched.
I did.
Good. You should play. It's a good sport, man. The World Cup is worthy. People say nothing goes on, and I think that's just a horrible take to say nothing happens in soccer, and then they'll turn on like an NFL football game where there is quite literally 10 minutes of like moving parts combined. Like you can like the NFL more than I of course do, but to say nothing happens in a soccer game, I'm gonna go watch the NFL is like just.
I think the knack isn't even that nothing happens. It's just that I think people are used to sports that are more high scoring. And when you can get like an hour into a game and it still be 0-0, I don't know a single sport, like another sport where that happens frequently.
No, but here's the thing about soccer is it's a running clock. So once the game starts, it's 45 minutes and you're done. It can be 0-0 or 3-0 at the end of the first quarter and no one blinks an eye. And that's like the same as like a half of soccer. You make all touchdowns 1 point and you give like NFL football a running clock. And I guarantee you games are ending, 2-1, 3-2.
Yeah.
I think the problem with it and why I don't care, because I don't like soccer as much as I like football. I mean, obviously there's kind of a physicality like that is in NFL football that's not in soccer. And I think different things happen more often. In soccer, like there's obviously headers and free kicks and a lot of different things, but the kind of just chaos that NFL football has where weird shit happens all the time. Football is king at that, where just stuff you've never seen before happens a lot. And soccer is kind of the same mechanics over and over again. I feel like that to me is the main. It's not that nothing happens. It's not that, there's no action for 45 minutes. I love that there's no ads and I love the environment, but
there's no ads
in soccer. No,
they got them on the jerseys, man.
They got them on the jerseys, right? There's no ads inside. The game starts 0-0. There's a running clock. There's no ads until halftime. There's an ad, halftime show, ad, and then it goes to the end of the game.
Blaiden, how are you stunned by this?
How are you stunned by this? Again,
have you? I mean, do you not even know? Like,
I've never watched a soccer game on TV before,
and yet you slander soccer, and you're in the replies like, "I'm not watching this." You've never even seen the. There's
I
no
wasn't
ads.
I wasn't slandering it. I just said I wasn't watching. All I said was I'm not watching.
Come on, this is a little gaslighty from you, Blaiden. All I said was that I wasn't watching it. Do I have to watch it now? Are you making me watch it?
But Spain is my pick to win the World Cup. Whatever, whatever that's worth. But let's talk about a real sport, NFL football, with people hitting guys. And yeah, shout out the World Cup, though. This holiday season, I'll be giving thanks to our friends over at Manscaped. Everyone loves turkey and stuffing, but you'll be looking like dessert with the help of Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have blessed you with the ultimate Thanksgiving dinner topic. Tell your in-laws about your new cutting-edge ball trimmer and gift yourself or the man in your life the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Trim your pumpkins by going to manscaped.com and use the code STAYHOT for free shipping and 20% off. Think your holiday spread is good? It's time to give thanks to the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, or as I like to call it, the perfect package for your package. Inside, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. Think of it as a cornucopia for your balls. Their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. It also gives you the ability to turn a 4,000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Plus, it's waterproof. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker to chop off your worst weeds up top in your nose and ears. This nose and ear hair trimmer uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system to provide proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. As if this wasn't enough, it's time to do the dishes with Manscaped's shower products. Lather some of Manscaped's refined body wash on their brand new body buffer and give yourself the lather and rinse your body deserves. Lose the loofah and exfoliate your mates. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code STAYHOT at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with the free shipping at manscaped.com and use code STAYHOT. That's one word, all caps. Be thankful this holiday season for the best gift of all from Manscaped. Your balls will thank you.
It was a very interesting day in NFL football, as it almost always is. The Eagles eked another game out. The Giants, marvelous run. And really, if we're just looking at the NFC East, it's the Eagles eke one out. The Giants have had this crazy run to start the season.
Their Linsanity. Their
Linsanity run. It's over. And then the Dallas Cowboys throttle, just complete run through the Minnesota Vikings in every way, shape, and form. And then Washington, I think, we've kind of not talked about them a lot this year. At some point, a discussion needs to be had about their legitimacy and just how good that team might actually be. Theo, which team do you think is the most relevant to start off with?
Let's start with Dallas. I mean, they won 40-3, and I think my take on this is my favorite team in the NFC. I think that's my take right now. The Eagles are obviously great. They're 8-1. They've had a bit of a tough go of it these last 3 weeks, but you get everybody's best effort when you're on top. They've played Thursday night. They've played on Monday night. Lots of maybe like these primetime games with teams really giving it their all. If you win, you win. But Dallas, to me, is a little bit better than Philly. I think they might be with Dak. I think they've got a better defense and a better quarterback. They've got a better pass rush, just a more complete front seven. Maybe their secondary isn't as good, but Trayvon Diggs has been like turning into that true kind of deserving all-pro type of dude this season who has been really consistent from week 1 to week 17. Yeah. And you look at like Dallas and all the positions you'd consider of like utmost important. You need a corner, you need an edge rusher, a left tackle, a quarterback, a wide receiver, right? Dallas has, Pro Bowlers at all of those positions, and they're getting Tyron Smith back in December, most likely.
Yeah.
And they can put up, not only can they run it like as good as any team in the league, like Pollard and Zeke is a electric 1-2 punch, right? They put Zeke in at the goal line when Pollard wasn't like quite plunging in. And in between the 20s, like Pollard was just kind of electric. So they've got a really good running game. Tyler Smith moves body. Their line is quite good. Tyler Smith is better than everyone thought he would be right away. And you're getting Tyron Smith back later in the year. And I mean, they're just a buzzsaw. Their front seven is just a complete buzzsaw. They stunt. They've got better players than you, and they've got a better coordinator than you. Like Dan Quinn is that dude. The stunts they run them all the time. It's just so tough to deal with when you've got that much movement and that much to think about, when also they are more physical. So you've got this great defense. You've got this great front seven. You've got a number one shutdown corner. Their other, as we saw in the Packer game, that other corner spot outside alongside Diggs is definitely a bit of a question mark, and they might not be able to hold up in man coverage all the time. But man, like their front just gets there so fast that like it's tough to hold on to the ball and expose them a lot of the time. So if they can get a guy like Odell and have Gallup and Odell and CeeDee Lamb, like I do think their wide receiving core needs a little bit more depth. But to me, Dak is someone I trust. If he played a better game today than like any quarterback has all year, to come in against an 8-1 Vikings team and just, I mean, he didn't miss. His only misses came under pressure. When he wasn't pressured, he literally did not miss today and had probably the most efficient game of the season from any quarterback. Obviously, they put up 49 against the Bears the other day. Since he's come back from injury, he's been pretty lights out. He threw 2 picks against the Packers where miscommunications on the route with CeeDee Lamb. That happens sometimes. But,
right.
I mean, he's been pretty unconscious otherwise. And when you got a quarterback like that and a defense like that and the offensive infrastructure is rolling, Mike McCarthy scares me. I still think that he is capable. I know he is capable of terrorizing you. He is capable of selling at the end. But man, on paper, this it's the same thing we said last year. It's like, dude, Dallas, like at all levels, they're really good.
How many years have we said this in a row?
Right, and then they ran into
this is the Cowboys,
right? And then they ran into Shanahan, and the 49ers are another team that I hold in a really high regard, and I think they could really go on a run much like they did last year. But
yeah,
I'm definitely not like, oh my God, this is really it for Dallas. I'm a little dubious, but from a talent standpoint, all kind of 5 units. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but I think they might be better than Philly, and I might like them better than Philly.
The only thing I could see is like Philly has so many options with what they could, like they have the best offensive line, and what Jalen Hurts can do with his legs gives them so many options on offense to where like for most of this game the Colts had it. Like they were up 2 possessions. They probably should have won this game. But when you give the Eagles enough possessions, you just give them enough chances, they're eventually just going to figure it out. And that's the thing is I think in a similar situation, I don't know if Dallas has the resources to necessarily figure it out the way that Philly does. I think Philly just has more resources available to them offensively.
I disagree. I think they're like, maybe their line isn't quite as good, but I mean, when it comes to the different types of runs and kind of the variety of their offense, maybe Kellen Moore is a little bit more predictable, but I just don't think there's anything that Dallas can't do. And I feel the same way about Philly, but I do think Dak is a little bit more of a complete quarterback at all levels of the field. Yeah, like Hurts is playing obviously very well this year, but I trust Dak a little bit more over the middle of the field and in quick game a little bit more than I trust Hurts. And I think that's what you saw today with the Eagles.
Hurts missed a lot over the middle.
Yeah, he just doesn't throw it there a lot. And that's not necessarily like...
It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world, but it's a nice... When there's like a clear heat map of where the ball gets thrown and there's like... a clear cold spot over the middle, that's a weakness. And I just don't think Dak really has anything like that. Obviously he's not perfect, but he's damn good. And there's nothing with Dak that really sticks out to me as like, oh, well, he's terrible at this, or he doesn't do that. He can't do this. And with Hurts, there's still a couple things where I'm like, you kind of create your own pressure sometimes, and you don't really throw it over the middle of the field. Like, really accurate, got much better against the blitz, like much better deep ball this season, and can run it. But he's got a couple more weaknesses than Dak does, even still. And that's kind of what that, combined with the defense in the front seven, makes me prefer Dallas a little bit. But McCarthy, that's McCarthy. Yeah. I know what you are. I know who you are. You may.
I know what you are.
I know what you are, McCarthy. But
as opposed to Sirianni, might be the coach of the year. But
I don't know. I think that you can talk all you want about Jalen Hurts opening things up with his legs, but if his big argument is like everything is available to you when he's on the field, I think that's tough to make when the throwing over the middle of the field is never going to be quite right for them. Whether or not that's just because of the problem with him or his size or whatever. I agree somewhat. I think they kind of had a weird game today, and there's totally a world where they don't have two stupid fumbles. Right. And they fumbled the ball like 4 times, and they just lost it twice.
On their field goal drive, they got inside the 5, and then the ball went over Hurts' head and took him kind of out of easy touchdown range. Definitely a strange one.
Yeah, and the Colts they're not a terrible team. It's the run defense. The thing that kills them is the Colts' run defense is so good, so they weren't having success running the ball well, at least outside of Hurts. So I think overreacting to this game would be tough, but I also think in its own right, saying the Cowboys maybe are your favorites over the Eagles is a fair take. But if you're saying that, I wouldn't say it over this one specific game. They did end up winning, and if the expectation is like they go out and they only win by 1, it's like, oh, that's a pretty good team if you're complaining about only winning by not enough.
Oh yeah, I don't think the Eagles are. There's going to be a lot of people who compare the Eagles to the 11-0 Steelers and whatnot. I think the 11-0 Steelers pretty clearly had more limitations than this Eagles team does. I think pretty clearly that was the case, and they've run into some really nice defensive lines. I mean, last week, and we'll talk about Washington, they ran into Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne and Marquez Sweat. And then this week it's Grover Stewart, it's DeForest Buckner, who are a really good defensive tackle pairing. So you take away what the Eagles, you run into maybe the 2 best like run defenses in the league right now. Well, outside of Tennessee, but 2 of the best defensive like tackle duos in the league right now. Can't quite move the ball on the ground like you can against most teams. And, you kind of got to eke out wins. And you have no Jordan Davis. He'll be back, hopefully, by the time the playoffs roll around. So definitely still a team I hold in a high regard in the NFC and one of the best teams in the league. But I just this is mostly praise for Dallas and all the things they can do more than like, I think the Eagles are frauds, because I just think they've got a couple more limitations than Dallas. And that's all I'm at. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. And Jordan Davis being out was big, but I think the other big thing for the Eagles today, you got to clean up the penalties. I mean, they had multiple drives where they were in like 2nd and 30, or like 1st and 25, like something ridiculous. Like the occasional holding, fine, you get a long, drive that you need to convert, but that they had like 2 drives where they were in like 1st and 30, and I'm like that. That is such a drive killer to start that far back. It's just that kind of stuff cannot happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, honestly, then the thing that you're looking for in an Eagles-Cowboys matchup is how can the Cowboys defend the run? And their run defense is really not that good.
Yeah, they need to devote extra bodies in the box, because the Cowboys' defensive tackles, like the edges, obviously, if Micah Parsons is playing there, Dorrance Armstrong and Micah Parsons is playing off ball, like the edges are fine, but right down the middle, like their defensive tackle groups can be exposed. All right. And they spend a lot of time in single high structures with extra guys in the box, because they know that like the numbers look good, but they also know that they have the personnel that can't hold up in light boxes. So the numbers are like pretty fine, but they're devoting more resources to defending the run than basically anyone else. So fine is kind of the floor. If you are doing that and your running numbers aren't good or they're below average, like then they really suck. So it definitely is possible against the Cowboys that the Eagles could just, beat them to a pulp in the running game. It wouldn't shock me, but same deal with the Cowboys to the Eagles, right? The Eagles haven't been the number one run defense these past couple of weeks. So
their rushing defense I thought has been pretty good the last couple of weeks.
For the Eagles?
Yeah.
Well, last week they just lost the time of possession by so much, So
I don't know if they even necessarily did a terrible job of defending the run. I just think Washington ran it a lot and picked up. I mean, how many yards a carry was Washington getting last game?
Not a lot, but they had crazy number of third downs. It was they went 12 for 21 on third down.
Yeah, it's I get it, but I wonder if I don't know if controlling the clock directly equates to we got run all over.
Yeah. The one thing I will say for these two run defenses is they're both missing some pretty big pieces defensively. The Cowboys with Anthony Barr, and I don't know how much you value him in the run game, but at least for the Eagles, Jordan Davis is huge. Missing Jordan Davis is huge for, if you're looking at, their run defense isn't very good. When they get Davis back, it's going to be great again.
And despite that, they still did a good job defending the run today. I mean,
yeah. It was a pretty low EPA per play and yards per attempt for Jonathan Taylor today. So you're right. It wasn't a bad performance from them against the run. Obviously, they brought in Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph, who played a lot. And the Colts have had games like this where even though everything is bad, their offense, by no metric did their offense look good. This happened against the Chiefs as well. They were still in a position to win the game because of teams beating themselves, which the Eagles did with all the fumbles today and just some bad penalties that put them in first in impossible situations. So I'm not panicking about the Eagles. This isn't an Eagles slander session, but I love the both of these teams. It wouldn't surprise me if this is an NFC Championship game matchup. But I'm not too worried about the Eagles.
That'd be a great game.
That would be a crazy one. that would be a great Cowboys versus Eagles to get into the
NFC Championship.
It'd be sweet. That's what I'm probably rooting for.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario.
I don't know if the Panthers are going to be making this.
You losing hope on that.
Browns AFC Championship ?
Oh. Yeah, dude, their defense really is so bad, man.
I think it would be interesting if we put Grant Delpit at full-time linebacker.
I have no strong opinion about that. I'll be 1,000% honest with you. I think your defense just sucks.
It does suck, but when Delpit and if you had Delpit and Koromoa in the box together, I think that would be a legitimate.
I think that would work horribly.
I think it would work better than what it has been. But anyway,
however, that's not.
But anyway, and let's talk about Washington. That's a team that has to get a little bit of respect. I feel like.
I don't think they're that serious, to be completely honest with you.
I think they're a serious. I think their defense is serious. That's where
I'll give you that. I think their offense is just Heinicke. They've got a good defense and they've got a winner at quarterback, and those two things could get you out of the wild card round. That I will give you, but they would need to either finish above the Giants or the 49ers to make the playoffs, which is not impossible, especially if the Giants start to trail off here. But I just think offensively, I don't think they're that strong running the ball, and I think they've gone on a nice streak. Their run defense is very, very strong, like we just talked about. But I'm not really I don't feel like they're a frisky 6-5 team. I think they're a team that should feel pretty happy to be 6-5.
They started off 1-4, and since then they're 5-1. Do I have that? Jesus Christ!
I think so.
That's a tear. That is an absolute tear to be. They beat the teams that they beat the Bears, they beat the Packers, they beat the Colts, then they lost to the Vikings, beat the Eagles, and now beat the Texans. It's a really weird mix-up of games.
I think they're going to end the year better than the Giants. I'll say that. I think they're going to catch the Giants. I think the Giants are just completely talentless. I'm sorry, Giants fans. Your roster the cupboard is like bare. It really is crazy
as hell. Right
They're
now.
injured.
They've got
like
no one healthy.
Like, how many players would be the best player on this Giants team? Like Jonathan Allen, like Teron Payne. Like, there's a couple of them. Like, even Montez Sweat. There's 3 dudes in Chase Young when he comes back. Like, I might take any of those guys. Like, no disrespect to Leonard. Well, Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence is better than a lot of those guys, actually. But, man, just in general, like the Giants, especially their offense, really just doesn't have the horses to keep going. I mean, today versus Detroit, in Madden, when you guess run up the middle and everyone just like flies like upfield as fast as possible.
I know what you're.
That's like what the Lions were doing today. They're like, Saquon, fuck you, and we're going to stop. And every end around worked, and every time Daniel Jones kept the ball, there was like no one there. But basically what the Lions just said is, how many times are you guys willing to do that? Like, how many times are you just going to let, if they would have run it with Daniel Jones like 25 times today, the Giants probably would have won that game. And I think the bet the Lions were making is like, they're not going to do that. They're just not going to. We're going to let them run it. Like, every time Daniel Jones touches the football or keeps the football, he's going to pick up 15 yards. We don't care. We're going to bet they only go to that a handful of times and survive.
Yeah, they were not losing to Saquon Barkley today.
We're not losing. And Saquon didn't. I don't know if he had a single run that went over 5 yards today.
His longest carry was 4.
Yeah. So there's that.
Ridiculous.
And then when they didn't have Barkley on the field, or if it was just straight drop back and there was no play action or anything to bite on, they were just in cover 1 and they had nothing because they don't have any receivers. Kenny Golladay, I think, probably had their like, he had a nice catch today and the crowd like erupted into thunderous
it's like the Ben Simmons free throw sign.
Yes, exactly. But Wan'Dale Robinson in the flat, they did that a couple times, and he had 100 yards just by like running it 10 yards out of the flat. But then even he snapped his ankle. So it's just like,
I mean, they're just selling out against 4 receivers on the field right now. Who would they be? You have no clue. I have no clue. I don't know who they would put out.
Right. And it's not like, well, the Lions have special people on their defense that allows them to play this way. The Lions have the worst defense in football. Everyone can sell out to defend Saquon Barkley and play cover 1 all of their other snaps. Like, anyone can go do that. Anyone has the guys.
And this is where you're going to see Washington overtake the Giants. So we were talking about the Giants need to be able to run the ball. And part of their problem was that they kind of got down so much that they didn't have a choice, and then that messed everything up. So it made it very easy for the Lions. But next 3 games for Washington. Falcons absolutely need to run the ball. Giants. It's a 9-5 Washington team is well within reach.
Every year in the playoffs, there's the best defense in the league, led by some, mediocre quarterback. They're just always around. They're always around. They're always in the playoffs. Like a couple years ago, there was like Phillip Rivers on a really good Colts defense. Heineke himself has been the quarterback of these teams before. They're just, if you have a really good defense, you can win a bunch of games. You just can. And you may not have a really high ceiling to go win a Super Bowl if your quarterback isn't like that, unless your defense is like historically good. But Heineke, one thing he does have is he will just throw it up to Terry McLaurin, who is like a top 10 wide receiver. And his contested catch rate is like absurd, and he's super fast and good after the catch. Like, he's just a guy that you want to spam, and Wentz would not do it. But Heineke will. Heineke will do it. So he'll just like throw a bunch of jump balls to McLaurin, and that makes their offense good enough that they can win these games, because they're just going to shred everyone on defense. And I think Kendall Fuller has been playing a good stretch of games here over these past couple weeks. And Benjamin St-Juste is a young player who is really, really kind of stepped up now that he's playing outside. So I like Washington. Like, I don't like them in terms of like, oh yes, this is a potential Super Bowl winning all-time defense. No. Like, I don't quite think of them like that. But they made the playoffs with Heineke before and gave the Bucs their toughest challenge in all of 2020, right? Because their defense played so well, and Heineke was just playing his little heart out. And I think they can do that again. And I buy the high-end talent on this roster more than I buy the high-end talent in New York at this point with all their injuries. Like maybe if there ever was a point where I was like, well, with Thomas and, they can overcome the lack of wide receiver talent. But at this point with even more guys going down and their defense now even more depleted, like I just think it's too much to overcome as the schedule starts to toughen up.
This is opening up the perfect scenario for Odell to return home to the New York Football Giants.
He is not. he is not. He's going to go to the Cowboys, I think, or who else? Someone. He's going somewhere else.
It's Buffalo or Dallas at this point, you'd have to think.
The Odell to the Giants thing, maybe he does it because he's just that type of guy. And if he does, God bless him. But the Odell to the Giants thing, you're looking at it with the perspective of like which one of these teams that he could possibly go to needs a receiver the most. And Odell is not looking at it like that. He does not care. He just, which team can I go to that I'll be able to get on the field where I can actually go win a Super Bowl? That's what he cares about, and who's going to put me in the best situation. And it's just not the Giants right now, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think it will be I do think he cares a lot about New York. The Giants. I feel like he's genuine when he said I really wanted to bring that city a ring, and I loved it there. I mean, it made him his superstardom was at its highest when he was in New York. And because of that and his connection with Von Miller and maybe just the overall look of the team, I kind of think that Buffalo will be his final destination. I don't know if he'll betray all the Giants fan and go sign with Dallas. And I also think maybe the cap situation makes a little bit more sense, and the connections make a little bit more sense with Von Miller, who knows him well at this point, like in his ear. I do think Buffalo which has been rumored for a long time. It's been, the spot everyone thinks he's been for a long time. They could use his help. It's not like they've got this big three at wide receiver. Like, Gabe Davis is a fine number 2, but, Odell could.
You'd rather have Odell if you could.
You'd rather have Odell, and their third wide receiver is Isaiah McKenzie, and you'd definitely rather have Odell. So I still think he'll end up in Buffalo, as much as he'll kind of mess around on Twitter. And, he said the boys went crazy today.
He is having a great time.
He is having a grand old time on Twitter.com messing with people. So I think that he likes Dallas. I think that he likes kind of the idea, and every player likes the allure of playing, being a Cowboy, right? It's the biggest brand in the sport. But I do think the Bills make a little bit more sense. And if I had to guess where he'd sign, I would probably say Buffalo, but it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me.
That's what I would do. I think that's how you look at it, honestly, and you can get a pretty good idea of what Odell's going to do. If you were Odell Beckham, would you sign with the Giants or would you sign with the Bills?
If I was Odell Beckham, I'd sign with the Browns.
And I'd sign with the Packers.
I would not sign with the Panthers. I would sign with the Bills.
Actually, I don't even know if the Browns, it would benefit from it, but the Browns receivers are kind of good.
Actually, I don't. Okay, this is getting off track, but in a hypothetical world where you're Odell Beckham, I don't know if you can go back to the Browns, to be completely honest.
It would be Odell Sr. just like.
Well, did you see the Sir Yacht tweet where he said, like, at Odell Beckham, reply to this if you. Or don't reply to this if you're signing in Cleveland. And Odell made sure to go out of his way to say, that was hey, really in funny. All caps. So I don't think Cleveland's on the table if you're Odell Beckham Jr.
Heartbreaking. But even without Baker, come on, man.
Yeah, I don't know if Dallas will overtake Philadelphia in the standings, because Philadelphia is a couple games ahead. But I think they're the most dangerous, followed by Philadelphia. They're in the tier 1 in the NFC. And then I think, Washington is just annoying to play because they'll just beat your ass in the trenches on defense and just muck up your game plan and, throw enough prayers to McLaurin that a couple will get converted and they'll win a couple games. So they're just kind of like in the annoying tier. And then the Giants are like in the, like, if we do everything right, we will beat this team because we're more talented.
Do you think the Giants make the playoffs at this point?
No, I think that they're about to totally. It was a buzzsaw today. They just ran right all over them. They shut them down. They locked them up in man coverage. And then Detroit, which is not exactly the cream of the, like, Detroit's a football team pointed in the right direction. But if Detroit's just gonna, your longest run against the Detroit Football Lions is a 4-yard run, and they lock your ass up in man coverage, like, that's the worst defense in football that they just did that too.
There are 8 teams in the NFL or in the NFC with, that I would say are like, I guess if you want to include the Falcons, we could say 9 teams that are like in the playoff picture. And that's obviously Philly, the division winners, Philly, Minnesota, Seattle, Tampa. And then you have Dallas at 7-3, New York at 7-3. Then you have the 49ers who will play tomorrow. They're 5-4. And the Commanders who are 6-5. And then the Falcons who are 5-6.
The Falcons the Bucs are winning that division.
Yeah.
Go ahead, lock it in.
But is there a world in which the Falcons could overtake? Like, because I don't think
there is. I think I could see the argument for, like, maybe they just somehow figure it out in the division and something like drastic happens to the Buccaneers. There is no shot that they finish with a better record than the 49ers and Washington, I would think. I think that's incredibly unlikely at this point. I really just don't think they have that's another team where it's like, I like them and the coaching has been good, and that's what you were looking for this year, but they do not have the horses. They don't have the juice.
Yeah.
I think they're a little bit more competitive.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I'm just saying, I think they're a little bit more competitive than the worst teams. They are. Like, they really are, but it's just a huge uphill battle for them because they just don't have the guys yet.
Yeah.
The last couple weeks for the Giants, they lost to the Seahawks by 2 touchdowns. They beat the Texans by 8. Okay. Then they got blown out by the Lions. Right. So they're not really on the upward trajectory here. And next they've got Cowboys, Commanders, Eagles, Commanders, Vikings, Colts, Eagles. So that's basically a bunch of the top teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like, and the NFC is bad. I don't know if anyone, maybe someone won't catch them. Maybe they'll split with the Commanders and beat the Colts or something, and they'll finish with 9 wins and make the playoffs at 9-8. It's very possible, but like this team just is going to fade. It's going to fade pretty hard. So I haven't looked at everyone's schedules. I haven't projected exactly where everyone in the NFC winds up at the end of the day. But if someone catches the Giants, I will be completely and totally unsurprised. I guess that's what I'll say. I think the Falcons are a better football team at this point. I don't know if they'll catch them in terms of record, but I think there's a couple teams. I think the Lions, honestly, from top to bottom, like, showed it today. They're a better football team than the Giants are at this point. They've got more talent. And it's okay. It's okay that the Giants are this way, right? It is okay. This was supposed to be, they're totally overperforming this year, right? This was a rebuilding year. Evaluate your talent. You know you've got the right guy at head coach now, right? You know you've got that guy.
That's one piece of the puzzle.
The GM, you think you've got the right guy, right? So that's all that matters. If you've got the right guy to build the team up and to coach the team, all of these players are going to be gone soon. It doesn't matter. It's okay. It was exciting for them to even be in this position, but at the end of the day, it's just not your core. This is not your core that you're playing with. This is not your future for the most part.
You will need to get a quarterback at some point, though. As many of you may know, I live in Ohio, but I also love my boy De'Aaron Fox, and he plays in Sacramento. And, that used to be a huge pain for me because I don't always get to watch their games in my area. But this season, I discovered an amazing trick that lets me watch every single NBA game live for a fraction of the normal cost. And it's called ExpressVPN. Here is how it works. The NBA offers NBA League Pass, which lets you stream games online. But if you live in the US or Canada, it doesn't let you watch all of them. Some of the games are blacked out. So what do? You fire up ExpressVPN and use it to change your location to a different country. Buy and use the NBA League Pass from there, and boom, no blackouts. And depending on the country, NBA League Pass could cost less than $15 for the whole year. ExpressVPN works on your computer, phone, router, consoles, Fire TV, you can watch them from any device. So even when I'm not watching the NBA, I use ExpressVPN all the time for stuff like Netflix or Disney Plus to access thousands of extra shows that are only available in other countries' libraries. So make sure you enjoy all 1,230 games of the NBA season in high definition with the world's most trusted VPN, ExpressVPN. And today you can use our special link and get 3 months free at expressvpn.com/stayhot. Then you can use ExpressVPN to sign up for NBA League Pass at such a huge discount. That is expressvpn.com/stayhot for 3 months free with a 1-year package. expressvpn.com/stayhot.
It's worth talking about the New York quarterback situation, both for the Jets and the Giants. Because as of right now, I mean, we'll talk about the Giants in a second, but the Jets, it's bad. Wilson has been, there's real levels to just like this guy either is or isn't the dude. And I think with the Jets, it's like, it's compounded by a few things. It's like, number one, Wilson is just like, they did nothing on offense. I understand the Patriots have a fantastic defense, but his number of good games is just so low. And the rest of the team around him is so good. The waiting another year is maybe not in the cards if he keeps playing like this for the rest of the season.
Zach Wilson, I think, generates zero respect from NFL defenses.
I think he's going to – this is like the Rosen treatment. Rarely does a team ever give up on a quarterback before 3 years. That is like the baseline. And this is one of those rare situations, not for the same reason as Rosen. This is one of those situations where it's like, if they had even like a backup out there, if they had Flacco out there, you could argue, who is 37 years old.
The offense was better.
You should say they would be a lot more competitive. So what do you guys, I've been looking into it a little bit. What do you guys think the Jets should do at quarterback if Wilson keeps playing poorly?
Well, I'm a little bit more lenient. I think going forward, my philosophy with quarterbacks is going to change a little bit. And I'm going to be a little bit more lenient with them because at first I was like, well, Mahomes was great his first year as a starter. Lamar was great his first year. Herbert, great his first year as a starter. Like, if any of them aren't great right away, we know. All right. But with this season, Tua has been playing well. Geno has been playing well. Who else? Daniel Jones has been playing well. Jalen Hurts, or Daniel Jones has been playing better.
Daniel Jones has been playing okay. Jalen Hurts, this is like, I would say, really his second season actually starting.
Yeah.
Geno is a particularly weird one, and Tua was all hurt. Like, Tua had played like a full season's worth of games. There's some guys who have definitely showed out a little bit more, but I still think it holds true that if by the end of your second season, you are not on the right path, if you're throwing negative whatever yards in the second half of a game and the rest of the team around you is also very good, which is not something that you can say necessarily for some of those other guys, then it's like, dude, it's really hard to stick with you for another year.
Look, Zach is, but yes, I agree. Zach Wilson, you should start over. But in the future, I have seen the success of some guys who, struggled in their second year a little bit or whatever, and still turned it around. So in the future, like in non-Zach Wilson cases, I think I'm going to be a little bit more lenient. But for Zach Wilson, that dude it's done for him. And it brings me no greater pleasure to say that. And everyone knows, I think, who listens to this podcast, that of all the Zach Wilson believers, I've always been at the very bottom of that list. In my initial breakdown of him in my initial scouting report that I retweeted today, I called him a fifth round talent. I've never liked him. I always thought it was a total disaster waiting to happen. And people talk about COVID merchants all the time and like, oh, it happened during the COVID season and it didn't count. And a lot of it is about like a ring that like a particular NBA team based in Los Angeles is usually where it gets referred to, but it's like they were still playing other NBA teams when they won their ring, right? Everyone dealt with the same set of circumstances, right? Same thing with the Buccaneers when they won the championship that year. Like, it's tough to say it was a real Mickey Mouse team because they were still playing NFL talent. Zach Wilson and BYU were the only real COVID merchants because they got taken out of Pac-12 play and played the biggest scrubs that college football has to offer for a season. And that was the literally only time that Zach Wilson showed out. And he tricked everyone. Oh my God. Is he Steph Curry? Is he going to be the Steph Curry of the league? He's just like Rodgers. He's just like Mahomes. Holy shit. How many times did we hear that leading up to the draft after his pro day, throwing on literally air? People were like, is this the greatest pro day performance of all time? Like, who cares? Dude?
The dick riding was pretty crazy.
It was pretty crazy with the Mahomes comparisons and he's way better than Lawrence. He's actually better than Lawrence. He's better than Fields. He's better than everyone. He's QB1 in this class. Like, people fell for it hook, line, and sinker, man. And if you really watch the tape of
and
Zach
particularly
Wilson,
the Jets, I mean, it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget that not only was he the second overall pick, but the Jets knew like 2 months in advance. They were just like, we're taking him, and we're not considering anything else. And Lawrence will go 1, and Wilson will go 2.
Yes, So I had no belief in him before now, and a lot of people did. And the other thing to consider is just the off the field stuff with him. And he seems to, I mean, John Franklin Myers is liking tweets criticizing Wilson's leadership. And there's like the quote today where he's like, do you think the Bills let the offense down? And he said, or do you think the offense left the defense down? Which obviously they did. And he just said, nope. And it's kind of a leading question. Like, it's a bad question by the reporter because, it's something that he's not going to be like, oh, well, maybe he should. But a lot of the times guys aren't just going to be like, oh, yeah, the offense sucked. But there are ways to avoid that question and say, like, the defense did a great job, man. Like, it's so easy. Like, if they asked me that I had just sucked.
That is a question where you just take personal responsibility.
That's easy. And even if you don't want to like say like, oh yes, we sucked today for whatever reason, because that's bad optics too. You can say like, yeah, the defense, all the respect in the world to them. They balled out. They had an amazing performance, and we got to do better. We got to do better as an offense to reward that type of performance. Bang, done, over with. No one ever hears anything about that question. But to say like, no, we didn't let them down at all. And then the defense is like liking tweets that are like, actually, yes, you did. It's all of a sudden no one likes Zach Wilson. All of a sudden the defense really doesn't like Zach Wilson. And he's not to get too far into his personality because I'm at a distance. He is kind of like a trust fund, like really rich BYU kid. And I remember at the draft when he was standing alongside like Greg Rousseau and Jamar Chase, who were like throwing up gang signs. He looked like really scared. He's just like, I don't know if he inspires leadership. Like, I don't know if he's an inspiring figure to lead your team forward. I really don't. He just kind of seems like your average, like kind of barstool frat boy. And that's just not exactly. And when you're kind of shifting blame and shifting responsibility, and that's just kind of the way you carry yourself, I can really see him being annoying if you're Quinnen Williams or whatever.
I kind of think that doesn't matter at all, to be completely honest with you.
No.
The whole like quarterback personality stuff is blown so out of proportion. Ultimately, if you play good, it does not matter. And if you play bad, it does not matter. If he was tearing it up, it would make no difference whether or not he answered that press conference, yes or no, and vice versa. It's just like, are we, Tom, like, for instance, Tom Brady, right? He gets super pissed and freaks out a lot on the sideline. If he sucked and he did that, people would be like, look, he's not a leader. But he wins, so it's actually his competitive drive. If Wilson balled out and then they lost and still somehow the offense did bad and he answered that question no, people would think it was badass. So I think ultimately it just comes down to he can't get it done on the field.
Yes, absolutely. But if Heineke had a game like that, Heineke wouldn't like, the team would still like him. Like there just wouldn't be unnecessary drama, or maybe you're more willing to bench him and put Flacco on the pedestal. Like but it is important to have your teammates like you. And I'm really not sure.
And with the Elijah Moore stuff, dude,
Elijah Moore hates
Garrett
his
Wilson
ass.
say something today?
He said something. He said something
I could be totally wrong.
He said this. He said, this offense doesn't seem to have much faith in the wide receivers. I think that we deserve to have their trust, but I guess they feel differently. Is like, he said something along those lines. Like, they don't seem to trust the wide receivers. And Garrett Wilson isn't stupid. They don't not trust the receivers. They don't trust the quarterback, right?
Right.
But that's, I think, almost a little bit of a shot. I can definitely read into that a little bit as a shot. I think that's like, well, Flacco, they trusted the wide receivers when Flacco was there. Like, why don't they trust the receivers?
50 times a game.
They were throwing. He was putting up crazy numbers with Flacco. So I think the team would welcome Flacco's return. I think the coaching staff might welcome Flacco's return. He could execute basic shit. Like, I mean, you had Zach Wilson. He had to throw into the flat to Braxton Berrios.
Yep.
There's no pressure at all. Like, all day to throw. Yeah. Berrios was standing there like this. Thing flew 6 feet over Berrios's head. The near pick to Devin McCourty, like, dude was open.
Just to no one.
To no one.
Yeah, he threw a wide open pass to the defense.
I'll give him that.
To the defense. Yeah. So look, when he gets his feet right and when the first read is open, like, he's a good natural thrower of the football. The release looks nice. That's why his pro day looks so good, is like, he can like physically throw a ball and make it look pretty. And when the first read is open and there's no pressure, like, he can do it. But if literally anything goes wrong, I mean, if you can get pressure on Zach Wilson, you've won. If you move him off his spot, you have won the down. Yeah. It is over. He never punishes you ever for it. He is by far the worst quarterback in the league under pressure. And yeah, that's all. Just one thing going wrong, and he is like, you've won as a defense, and you're just waiting for the ball to come directly to you. And
it's crazy. Matt, you talked about like the rest of the offense. There wasn't really anything going on. They couldn't really run the ball today either. I think when you're playing Zach Wilson, it's just no respect. It's just we will just key in on the run. We just do not like. It's like the Saquon Barkley thing, right? It's like we will just like. It's like, but the opposite. It's like, and instead of we won't let Saquon beat us, it's like, you know what, Zach Wilson, try, like, go for it. Because we know you can't do it.
And this team would be so good with a good quarterback. Oh my God. Like, their defense is ridiculous. They had like 6-7 sacks today, something like that. And Quinnen Williams had one. Franklin Myers had one. Huff had one. Lawson had one. Like, they've just got this deep stable of dudes who can win, and they don't need to rush more than 4 and they still get home because they've got just so many guys who they can rotate. They're always fresh. The front 7 is so good. Sauce and Hall, they're so good. Or Reed, DJ Reed, they're so good. And yeah, everything. Mosley was balling out today. It is an elite defense. Garrett Wilson is very clearly extremely electric.
He's so good.
He's so good. I mean, when they had Hall, and even now, they still have 2 very solid backs in James Robinson and Michael Carter. And I still like Elijah Moore. Corey Davis is like a decent piece, but Garrett Wilson can truly be like, man, if you dropped him in, if the Chargers took him, like, holy shit, dude, he would be, I mean, he would be taking these curl routes to the house, dude. Like, it would be, I think he'd have the offensive rookie of the year race like wrapped up right now with the amount of talent that he has. And you see it in some games where he's making crazy catches and juking and moving differently than everyone out there on the field. But, you know, they can't utilize it. They can't pass. And, I mean, Saul is fed up. He said it's dog shit. Is how he described the offense. And they asked him if there was like was there ever any good moments from the second half? Was there like a moment where you're like, oh, that's a spark, let's build on that? And he's like, nope, there's just nothing good, and everyone is fed up with it. And like, the offensive line isn't that good, right? They've been banged up, they've been shuffling around, they don't have any superstars on that line. And maybe if they had a great line, Zach Wilson would look better, but that's true of every quarterback. It's not bad enough that no one could overcome it, right? This is,
Justin Fields has a bad team around him.
Right. He looks better. Lawrence looks better.
He looks 100 times better.
Lawrence looked better last year with Urban Meyer than Zach Wilson does this year with, LaFleur and Garrett Wilson and even Breece Hall for part of it, and the other running backs. Like, Lawrence, honestly, on tape looked better last year with all the disasters and all the things going wrong than Zach looked in his second year, and everyone is past him.
If you miss this game, these are some like absolutely remarkable stats. Okay, the Jets held the Patriots to 13 first downs, which is like really good. That's a really good defensive performance. The Patriots held the Jets to 6. Combined 19 first downs, that is less than almost every single team had today individually. That is like completely unhinged. The Jets had 2.1 yards per play. Like laughably bad.
It's rough.
It is some of the worst performance. I mean, Theo, Mac Jones got sacked 6 times, and that's another quarterback that we might need to have a discussion about.
I think even today, like, at least Mac Jones looked good last year. Like, you can't even say that for Wilson, who looked like way worse than Mac last year. And at least in this game, Mac wasn't doing anything down the field, and he was taking sacks, and he doesn't maybe have the arm to bail himself out of bad situations, but at least he was accurate, right? He wasn't sailing throws into the flat 6 feet over guys' heads. I think he had like a ridiculous completion percentage in this game. It's just he couldn't do anything but dink and dunk. But even that is like, well, I'll take that over.
Yeah, Jones did go
Wilson, who probably should have thrown like 2 or 3 picks today and just was missing some really easy passes.
Zach, the Jets offense punted. The most crazy stat is the Jets offense punted more times than Zach Wilson completed a pass. When you're targeting NFL wide receivers, people are going to point to drops and everything. If you are targeting NFL wide receivers and you complete less than 50% of your passes, that's on you. Like, that is on you, dog. Like, I can't help you at that point. I have no excuses for you. So
Zach Wilson was bad. I think we've fairly established.
We're just running through to make sure.
Well, he hasn't played great. And it's to the point where you could point to probably about 40, 50 different quarterbacks who totally changed things for the Jets. So if you're the Jets, what are you doing at quarterback?
It's a tough question. I mean, they're a team, so I would rather have Anthony Richardson. I would rather have anyone, man. I'd rather have Levis. I'd rather have Stroud.
Baker?
Stroud is a player that I'd rather have Bo Nix. I'd rather have I'd rather have anyone, man. Like, I just don't. Like I said, I just didn't value Zach Wilson as a prospect at all. Like, he may have been a guy you take on late day 2 based on his traits, but like, when I go through quarterbacks and I give anyone like a 2nd round grade, even I would rather have a guy like that. I would rather have a guy like on the Ritter tier, the Pickett tier. Like, I honestly considered Malik Willis and Zach Wilson like very, very similar in their like playing style and the kind of quarterbacks
do you know
were.
Who Zach Wilson really is? He's Johnny Manziel.
He's Johnny Manziel, right? So
he's Johnny Manziel, but I think Johnny Manziel honestly had better arm talent, straight up. But like, I think they've got a lot of options. Because if you draft Anthony Richardson, you cannot roll out with Anthony Richardson, Zach Wilson, and 38-year-old Joe Flacco as your quarterback room. That will just not end the way you want it to. And I like Richardson. Like, I see the vision. that is going to take some time. And your team is so good right now. And it's like all the quarterback options in free agency are just a little bit unrealistic is what kills them. It's like Geno, Seahawks aren't letting him walk.
Right.
Lamar, Ravens are not letting him walk.
Yeah.
Brady, I would say that's fairly unlikely, but
if he doesn't retire, he's not going to be back in Tampa next year. Like he's not going to be back in Tampa next year. He is either walking and going somewhere else, or he is retiring. Probably retiring, but if he doesn't retire, I would offer Brady a bag. I would totally offer.
It's not unthinkable. It's not totally unthinkable. You can see with the other two, it's like, well, he's getting franchise tag. It's like Geno's getting franchise tag, Lamar's getting franchise tag. Absolute worst case scenario. Brady, there's a world where he walks, and there's a world where he picks the Jets. That is true, but I'd say that's fairly unlikely.
Jacoby Brissett, the whole Jacoby Brissett carousel, you could ride that again. It looks like Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke is a free agent next year. Oh, Gardner Minshew is a free agent next year.
Minshew mania, I can see coming. I have that on my list right here. I think what will happen, I think they take another shot at a quarterback in the draft if they don't get anything going in free agency, like unless they really hit the jackpot. Really? Because if they're I mean, I don't even think it's debatable. If Wilson looks like this for the rest of the year, your options are either land something ridiculous in free agency that's incredibly unlikely, or you're signing a guy who is like backup level and will be better, but will eventually catch up with you, and that's it. Or you take another quarterback.
How many quarterbacks do you think go in the first round?
Hard to say from now, but there's probably...
I bet 4.
I have 4 to 5. There are guys who are worth taking in the later first round.
Maybe
that would be
that's my only concern.
There's Richardson and Hooker, who now I guess just tore his ACL.
I'm not taking Hooker in the first round, man. He's out. He's going to miss his rookie season. He's already 25. By the time he makes his debut, he could be 26 years old, and by the time his rookie deal is up, he'll be 30. Like, you've got to be.
It's a tough one. But if Richardson or Levis falls to them, I'd think about it. Otherwise, you are like, your number one problem is quarterback by a country mile. The rest of the team is sick, and you're just going to do nothing at it. I just cannot see that happening.
They could definitely be a team that prizes Stroud too. They might be a Bears situation a little bit, where maybe teams cool on Stroud, and I think it's valid to cool on Stroud. I'm not going to be a big Stroud fan coming into this year, because I think his creation ability is he's just not creative. He's just a statue. Is gonna, he's really accurate and all that, but not really someone who I think could turn a bad supporting cast around. But if other teams think this, and I think they might, I think Stroud, who is being mocked to number 1 all over the place, I really don't think that's going to be the case come draft time. I think his game is really going to get picked apart. But much like Fields at Ohio State, he fell to like 10. That might put the Jets in range to trade up, just like the Bears did. And like, they are a team.
Wilson.
Right. They're a team with Stroud who's going to get marked as this like Mac Jones-esque pro-ready quarterback who's just very like his accuracy at times could be crazy. So if you can get that offensive line a little bit better, and if no one likes Wilson in the locker room, and the coach has lost his trust and he's just going to lose his head every time there's pressure, then maybe you put in Stroud, who's not going to sail a pass 5-yard over Tyler Conklin's head and right into the arms of Devin McCourty. He's not going to miss Braxton Berrios in the flat. Like, maybe the Jets are the team that feels comfortable ending Stroud's fall, because all they need is we're sick of the creator. All right, we just had the guy who runs around and throws it up there. Like, we're sick of that.
Let's get the opposite.
Let's get the total opposite and CJ Stroud and just have the guy who is more than happy to just stand there and throw it to the guy we want him to throw it to and deliver it on time and accurately. Like, that's Stroud's game. That's like all it is. But Wilson, there are times where he just like the first thing is covered and he just starts heading about 10 yards backwards to,
yeah.
So I could see that I could definitely see that, but
I like that take, and I would like that. I'm not high on Stroud, but I also think that pretending like if he doesn't go to a situation that's a little bit better, that he probably wouldn't be pretty good out of the gate is wrong.
He could definitely be the Jets Tua, right? Where Tua is a guy who isn't going to be a creator, right? Tua is never going to be the guy to run around and gun it all over the yard like Justin Herbert. But Tua is a guy where, all right, you get McDaniels there, you get Tyreek Hill, you get this team that you like, and Tua is, very, very accurate in the short and he throws with great touch in the short and intermediate area, and is going to hit those crossing routes on time. He'd love nothing more than to just get the ball out of his hands and operate this on time and accurately. Like Stroud can be the Jets Tua, maybe, and if the Jets get shredded, it'll be a really interesting matchup at the end of the year. This Dolphins offense versus the Jets defense, but maybe they'll look at the success of Tagovailoa in Miami and say, like, Stroud can be our Tua, because I think that those two are somewhat comparable in terms of how I think they win in the NFL.
If you gave the Jets a Mac Jones rookie season,
Mac Jones would make this team a lot. Look, Mac Jones is not useless. Like, we saw his rookie season that when he's confident and understands what's going on, like, he can sling it a little bit. This year, I think with the offensive coordinator change and whatnot, I think it's just been a little bit of a disaster for him. And I think now he's in his own head. But if you got like a confident Mac Jones, if you got a rookie year Mac Jones who's like comfortable with the playbook and, maybe doesn't feel it wouldn't work with Zach Wilson there, but Bailey Zappi breathing down his neck and maybe the desire to separate himself by trying to run someone over or whatever he's doing.
Bailey Zappi might be better than Zach Wilson.
I take him, man. I take anybody over Zach Wilson, dude. I think he's the worst. Like, I really just do not any backup. I just don't think is going to sell the game like Zach Wilson does. But yes, if you could get him your own Mac Jones, I really think this team had to have a high ceiling, because the defense is just so good, and Garrett Wilson is, I think, going to be so good. So Stroud, Mac Jones, Zappy, I don't care. Bridgewater, I don't know. Just give someone who's not going to fuck up, who just knows what he's doing. Yeah.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. Zach Wilson can be replaced by literally any quarterback at any level. Middle school.
I just saw a tweet that Chad Kelly is balling in Canada in the Grey Cup tonight. Get him in here.
Well,
I don't care that Hendon Hooker tore his ACL. Put him in.
Let's get Matt Corral off the IR.
Matt Corral, yeah.
Dude, I really think if the Panthers go quarterback high, Corral gets moved somewhere. There are so many teams where you're like, they absolutely must have a quarterback this season, and there's just not that. I guess that's
Matt
true
Corral
every
to the
year.
Jets, dog. You don't think they would trade?
I think Zach Wilson was kind of my Corral compare. He kind of reminded me of Zach.
I think Corral's better. I can't lie.
He might be. I don't know, man. Corral.
I disagree. I understand the odds of Corral working out are nothing, but when it comes to Wilson, he's got this horrible combo of again, he cannot, once you get him off his spot, it's over, and he instantly moves off his spot whenever given a chance. And it's you can say Corral has some similarities, but no one plays like that in the NFL. We've been talking, and Wilson could, look a little bit better than he did today. He's had better games. I don't want to say all this about Wilson. Oh my God. But
we really just ripped this dude to shreds.
The pocket presence is not there. And that's I think arguably the number one thing you're looking for in a quarterback outside of being able to throw the ball hard.
Yeah. So it's not to talk about I have no desire to talk about the Panthers, but I don't think Corral. I'll say this. Corral is not going to be anyone's opening day plan, nor should he be. I'll say that about the Carolina Panthers.
Stop.
They should.
Stop.
He should not prevent you from taking a quarterback high. Unless maybe that quarterback is CJ Stroud, who I think would not be taken.
There's a hypothetical world where he won't be anyone's opening day plan, but there is very much a world where the Panthers roll in with a bridge quarterback for 4 games and then goes to Corral.
I hope not.
That is possible. Me neither, but it's possible.
Yeah,
I hope not. Trade for Ritter. Trade a first for Ritter.
I'm on board, man.
I'm on board. Like who says no? A first for Ritter. I would say this. I would say Carr would be a quarterback that could potentially get moved with his contract is not difficult to move. And, they're going to have a pretty high pick. But I really don't know if Carr is movable because of the locker room Devontae Adams situation and the fact that Devontae is there for Carr.
Here's you keep saying this. What would he do? It's like we just traded Derek Carr. Oh well, I'm going home. Like, well, no,
I'm tired of this
contract,
grandpa.
big bro. Like this is the. It's very.
I don't know what he would do, but it seems like he could do something. I don't know. He left the Packers. Yeah. I saw him do that. So I feel like he possible. But he was also, a free agent. And his option was the franchise tag or a trade. So, yeah, I don't know exactly what he would do. Carr getting moved might be the best move for both sides, whether that be if the Jets could go get Carr, they would man, what could this offense be with even a Derek Carr tier quarterback? I think they could be they could get to the AFC Championship game for sure with Derek Carr. So maybe that's something you offer if you end up with a wild card-ish first round pick, that might be worth that swap. But it really does feel like the Raiders are closer on paper than their record suggests. And they just brought in Adams, and the owner has been like, we're running this all back next year, multiple times. So I don't know how realistic it is, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. You could save $30 million by moving off of Carr.
I would do it. I guess I would do it.
It's thinkable.
It's extremely thinkable. And Brady too. Brady is really something to watch out for. I think Brady is still a good quarterback. I still think Brady is a good quarterback right now. So if he doesn't have his wife's not going to divorce him if he retires anymore. So, and maybe he just thought the Bucs sucked and wanted to retire to get away from Arians. All right. That I remember the timing of Arians retiring and Brady unretiring was very, suspect. And maybe, that was the only thing the retirement was. So maybe it's not a sure thing that Brady retires at the end of this season, because maybe it was a play last off season. So I could see Brady on the Jets. I could see Brady in New York. I could see Carr in New York.
I think it's possible. I think it's
possible too.
Brady really trying to solidify his GOAT case, not just for
especially if they make the playoffs and he's
seen the future.
If he ends in top 10 range for all the quarterback stats, and they go to the playoffs and they lose because the Bucs aren't that good, and he says, "Well, let me go." Same thing he did in New England. We ran that team collapsed. I'm going to the Jet. I'm going to play with Garrett Wilson. He's going to coax Mike Evans to come play there and leave the Bucs in total disarray. And you got Mike Evans and Garrett Wilson in this defense.
Mike Evans is the new Gronk.
Gronk will unretire for
Gronk will obviously unretire. He'll go play in New England in the Northeast again.
Oh God!
This is our path to Kyle Trask starting day one next year.
And
Kyle Trask, the great quarterback. Anthony Richardson. The future is now Anthony Richardson backing up Kyle Trask, the Florida duo.
Kyle Trask is just going to win MVP. That's the reality.
It's all happening. It sets up Jameis Winston's return back to Tampa.
We've gone full circle at this point, but I think that pretty much wraps things up for us. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you need a synopsis of this show, it's basically the NFC East is ridiculous. It's a total buzzsaw, except for the Giants that are collapsing. And then the Jets are either going to have Derek Carr or Tom Brady next year. That's the synopsis of the show. But as always, tons of content coming away on all platforms. Again, we'll be doing our YouTube live to recap the Sunday night and Monday night games. talk about some other stuff with you guys, and then of course
my in-depth breakdown of the USA, the men's national team versus Gareth Bale and Wales is actually what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're going to talk about.
I've got to work on my British accent as I try to break into the
Goff.
Goff.
Jets.
Oh God! Every quarterback to the Jets at this point.
Let them all have a big battle royale. Devote like 32 roster spots to it in preseason next year.
Good God! we'll do our YouTube live to recap Sunday night and Monday Night Football, and that'll actually serve as our quote unquote Thanksgiving episode. We will not be recording an episode to release on Thursday. But we will do an AMP live on Wednesday, roughly around the same time as we do on Thursday. We'll tweet out or put in the chalkboard to let you guys know. That is the AMP app on Amazon, where we'll talk about Game of the Week, Stay Hot Lock, stuff like that. But until next time, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you all on the Flippity Flop.